Tasha's phone buzzed at 2:47 a.m. She grabbed it with shaking hands, squinting against the bright screen in her dark bedroom. The text message made her blood run cold. "If you don't stop him from getting on that helicopter in 6 hours, Marcus dies. You think you escaped the story. You're still in it." The author Tasha stared at those words until they blurred. Her heart hammered so loud she could hear it in the silence of the night. Marcus, her husband, the man who couldn't speak, the billionaire CEO everyone feared, was going to die in a helicopter crash. Just like the book said, she'd spent 6 months changing everything. She'd turned their cold, arranged marriage into something real. She'd made him smile. She'd heard him speak her name for the first time just 2 weeks ago, and now, in 6 hours, it would all end. Unless she could break fate one more time, Tasha threw off her covers and ran down the hallway of their penthouse. Her bare feet slapped against the marble floors. She burst into Marcus's study, empty. "No, no, no," she whispered. But how did Tasha, a broke TV producer from the south side of Chicago, end up married to Marcus Fontaine, the richest, most mysterious man in Illinois? And why did she believe her life was written in a book she'd never even read? This story will take you on a wild ride through destiny, love, and the fight to rewrite your own ending. If you've ever felt trapped by circumstances you didn't choose, this one's for you. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you won't want to miss a single one of our stories. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. 6 months before that terrifying text message, when Tasha first discovered the impossible truth about her life. The smell of old paper and coffee filled Tasha's nose as she pushed open the door to Riverside Books, a cramped used bookstore on South Wabash Avenue in downtown Chicago. Rain pounded against the windows outside. Tasha shook water from her jacket and pulled her hood down. Her natural curls were already frizzing from the humidity. "Just browsing," she called to the elderly owner behind the counter. Tasha loved this place. It was stuffed floor to ceiling with books nobody wanted anymore. Romance novels with broken spines, cookbooks from the 1970s, mystery thrillers with yellowed pages. She wandered to the back corner, running her fingers along the spines. Then she saw it, a book with a deep purple cover, gold lettering that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Fontaine Fortune. Tasha pulled it out. It was heavy, the cover slightly worn. There was no author name, just that title in fancy script. Something about it made her skin prickle. She opened to the first page and started reading. Natasha Williams never imagined she'd marry a man who couldn't speak. But when her father's old friend Kingston Fontaine called in a favor, she had no choice. Tasha's hands started shaking. Her name was Tasha Williams. Well, Latasha, but everyone called her Tasha. She kept reading. Natasha grew up on the south side of Chicago, raised by her father Bernard after her mother died when she was 19. The book fell from Tasha's hands and hit the floor with a loud thump. "Okay, back there," the owner called. Tasha couldn't answer. She picked up the book with trembling fingers and flipped through the pages frantically. There it was. Her whole life, her job at Chicago Metro TV network, her best friend Aaliyah Chen, her annoying cousin Jasmine who was always bragging about her rich boyfriend, even the small stuff, her electric scooter she'd named Tangerine, her obsession with deep dish pizza from Lou Malnati's. Habit of talking to herself when she was nervous. "This is insane," Tasha muttered. "This is absolutely insane. Books don't just, people's lives aren't." She was talking to herself, just like the book said she did. Tasha flipped to the middle of the book, her heart racing. Marriage was arranged by their grandfathers, old friends who'd made a pact decades ago. Marcus Fontaine was 31, a billionaire CEO who hadn't spoken a word since his parents died in a car accident when he was 7. Natasha was 26, broke, and desperate to help her father pay off medical bills he'd hidden from her. "What medical bills?" Tasha whispered. Her father Bernard was healthy. He worked at the post office, pulling double shifts sometimes, but he was fine. Wasn't he? Tasha pulled out her phone and dialed. "Baby girl." Her father's deep voice came through, warm and familiar. "It's almost 9 o'clock. You okay, Dad? Are you sick?" Silence. "Dad, who told you?" Bernard said quietly. Tasha's stomach dropped. "What's wrong? What's happening?" "It's nothing serious," Bernard said, but his voice had that tone. The one he used when he was lying to protect her. "Just some heart trouble, needs surgery, but we'll figure it out. I didn't want you worrying." Heart surgery. Dad, when how much? Don't you worry about the money, Tasha. I've been saving, we'll manage. Tasha closed her eyes. Her father had been managing her whole life, working himself to exhaustion to give her everything. And now he was sick and trying to hide it. Call you back, Dad. She hung up before he could argue. Tasha looked back down at the book in her hands. She flipped forward, scanning the pages. The story was all there. Confronting, Marcus's grandfather, would call Bernard next week about the old favor. The marriage arrangement their grandfathers had made 30 years ago when they served in the army together. Kingston would offer to pay for Bernard's surgery if Tasha agreed to marry his grandson. Tasha would say yes to save her father. But here's where it got terrifying. In the book, Natasha was horrible to Marcus. She treated him like a burden. She complained to her friends that he was boring and cold. She stole money from him and gave it to her greedy relatives. She caused a huge scandal that almost destroyed the Fontaine company, and in the end, Marcus died in a helicopter crash and Natasha lost everything. I would never do that, Tasha said out loud. I'm not some gold-digging villain. I don't care how much money someone has. I would never. But the book was right about everything else. Her name, her life, her father's illness that she didn't even know about until 5 minutes ago. What if the book was right about the rest too? Tasha bought the book for $3 and ran out into the rain. 1 week later, Tasha sat at her desk at Chicago Metro TV network, staring at her computer screen without seeing it. Everything the book predicted had happened. Confronting had called her father 3 days ago. Bernard had come to Tasha's apartment that night looking 10 years older and told her about the arrangement. No, it sounds crazy, Bernard had said, sitting at her tiny kitchen table. But Kingston and I made a promise when we were young. If either of us had a granddaughter and the other had a grandson, we'd unite our families. I never thought he'd actually hold me to it, but you're sick and you need help, Tasha finished quietly. Bernard looked down at his hands. I wouldn't ask if there was any other way, baby girl. The surgery costs more than I'll make in 5 years, and Marcus, Kingston says he's a good man, quiet but good. He runs one of the biggest companies in Illinois. You'd be taken care of. Marcus even want to get married? Tasha asked. Kingston says Marcus agreed. He's very private, doesn't date. This arrangement works for him too. Tasha had wanted to scream, to throw something, to say absolutely not. But then she looked at her father, the man who'd worked 3 jobs to send her to college, who'd never remarried because he said raising her was enough, who'd given up everything for her. Okay, she'd heard herself say. I'll do it. Now, a week later, Tasha was supposed to meet Marcus Fontaine for the first time tonight. Dinner at some fancy restaurant in the Gold Coast neighborhood. Girl, why do you look like you're about to throw up? Tasha looked up to see Aaliyah Chen sliding into the chair next to her desk. Aaliyah was 25, always dressed like she was going to brunch with celebrities, and had been Tasha's best friend since they'd started at the TV station 2 years ago. I'm getting married, Tasha blurted out. Aaliyah choked on her iced coffee. Excuse me, what? It's complicated. Tasha Williams, you better start talking right now. So Tasha explained. The arrangement, her father's surgery, Marcus Fontaine, she didn't mention the book. That part was too crazy to say out loud. Aaliyah's eyes got wider and wider. Wait, Marcus Fontaine, the CEO, the one who's on the cover of Chicago Business Magazine like every other month, I guess. Tasha, Aaliyah grabbed her shoulders. That man is fine, like stupid fine and rich girl people would kill for this arrangement. Can't talk, Aaliyah. He can listen, that's more than most men do. Aaliyah grinned. I'm just saying there are worse situations. You get to save your dad and marry a billionaire. That's a win. But Tasha kept thinking about the book, about Natasha becoming the villain, about Marcus dying. Need this to work, Tasha said quietly. I need to be different, better. Aaliyah squeezed her hand. You're already better, babe, just be yourself. That evening, Tasha stood outside Bianca's, a restaurant so fancy it didn't even have prices on the menu. She'd worn her nicest dress, a simple black one she'd bought for her cousin's wedding 3 years ago. She'd flat-ironed her curls into submission. She'd put on the lipstick Aaliyah swore made everyone look expensive. She still felt completely out of place. A black Mercedes pulled up to the curb. The back door opened. Tasha's breath caught. Marcus Fontaine stepped out, and sweet mercy, Aaliyah had not been exaggerating. He was tall, at least 6'3", with broad shoulders under a perfectly tailored navy suit. His skin was deep brown, his fade was crisp, and when those dark eyes landed on her, Tasha forgot how to breathe. He was the most handsome man she'd ever seen in real life. Marcus walked toward her, each step confident and controlled. He stopped about 2 feet away. Up close, Tasha could see the scar on his left eyebrow. The way his jaw was set like he was carved from stone. The complete absence of expression on his face. He pulled out his phone, typed something, and showed her the screen. "You must be Tasha." His voice was gone, but his eyes did all the talking. They scanned her face like he was memorizing every detail. "Why, yeah," Tasha stammered. "That's me, Tasha Williams, which you obviously know already because, we're supposed to be getting married. Not tonight, I mean eventually." "Hi," she was rambling. She always rambled when she was nervous. Marcus's lips twitched, just barely. It might have been a smile, or maybe just gas. He gestured toward the restaurant and offered his arm. Tasha took it, feeling the solid muscle underneath his suit jacket, and let him lead her inside. Dinner was the most awkward hour of Tasha's entire life. They sat across from each other at a table with more forks than Tasha knew what to do with. A waiter brought out tiny portions of food with names Tasha couldn't pronounce. Marcus typed everything on his phone and showed her the screen. "Do you have dietary restrictions?" "No, I eat everything. I mean, I'm from the South Side. We don't turn down food." "Wine?" "Sure. I don't really know anything about wine, though. My dad drinks Bud Light, and I usually just have whatever's on sale." Tasha wanted to crawl under the table. She sounded so unsophisticated, but Marcus just nodded and ordered something in French. The waiter looked impressed. "So," Tasha said after the waiter left. "This is weird, right? Like really weird." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Getting married to someone we don't know, because our grandfathers made some pact 30 years ago. It's like something from a historical drama, except we have iPhones." Marcus's shoulders shook. He was laughing, silently but definitely laughing. Tasha relaxed a tiny bit. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "And you can tell me if I'm being too nosy, but why did you agree to this? You're successful, she gestured at all of him. You could marry anyone. Why agree to marry a stranger?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he typed, "My grandfather is old, sick. This was his dying wish to see me settled. I don't have time for dating. This is practical." Tasha read the message twice. "So this is just business to you?" Marcus looked at her for a long moment, then typed, "For now." Something about those 2 words made Tasha's heart skip. The waiter returned with their appetizers, tiny portions of something that looked artistic but not filling. Tasha picked up her fork, then froze. She had no idea which fork to use. Marcus noticed. He picked up the small fork on the outside of his place setting and gestured slightly. Tasha copied him, grateful. They ate in silence for a while. Then Tasha's curiosity got the better of her. "Do you? I mean, you can't speak, but can you hear me okay?" Marcus nodded. "And you understand everything?" Another nod. "So you just choose not to talk, or you can't?" Marcus's expression shifted. Something dark flickered across his face. He typed quickly, "I can't, not since I was 7. Tasha remembered the book. The car accident, his parents dying. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I shouldn't have asked." Marcus shook his head and typed again, "It's okay. You should know who you're marrying." "Then can I know more?" Tasha asked. "Like, what do you do for fun? What's your favorite food? Do you have hobbies?" Marcus looked surprised, like no one had ever asked him these things before. He typed, "I design buildings, architecture, I collect vintage cars. My favorite food is my grandfather's gumbo. He makes it every Sunday." "You design buildings, like as a hobby." "Started as a hobby. Now Confronting Group develops properties. I designed some of them." "That's incredible," Tasha said, and she meant it. "I'd love to see your work sometime." Marcus looked at her like he was trying to figure her out. Then he typed, "What about you?" So Tasha told him about her job as an associate producer at the TV network, about how she wanted to make documentaries about real people's stories someday, about her obsession with deep dish pizza and her electric scooter named Tangerine. "I know it's not fancy," Tasha said. "My life is pretty simple compared to yours." "But it's mine, you know," Marcus typed. "Simple isn't bad. Simple is honest." Tasha smiled. "You're not what I expected. What did you expect?" "I don't know, someone cold, scary, but you're actually kind of sweet." Marcus's ears turned red. "Actually red? Oh my God," Tasha thought. The Billionaire CEO is blushing. The waiter brought their main courses. They ate and talked. Well, Tasha talked and Marcus typed for another hour. By the time dessert came, Tasha realized she was actually enjoying herself. Marcus wasn't cold, he was careful. There was a difference. He listened to everything she said. He asked questions. He even made a joke, typed it out with a completely straight face. My brother says I have the personality of a tax return. Tasha had laughed so hard she'd snorted, which made Marcus's lips twitch again. After dinner, Marcus drove Tasha home in his Mercedes. She gave him her address on West 79th Street, and he didn't even blink. No judgment about her neighborhood or her tiny apartment building. He walked her to her door like a perfect gentleman. Thank you for tonight, Tasha said. I was really nervous, but you made it easy. Marcus pulled out his phone and typed same. You're easy to be around. Tasha's heart did a weird flutter thing. So, what happens now? She asked. Marcus typed, we get to know each other, no rush. The wedding can wait until you're ready. Really? Your grandfather, my grandfather can wait. This is our decision. Tasha felt relief flood through her. Thank you, Marcus. He nodded, then typed one more thing. Can I text you to check in? Yeah, I'd like that. Marcus smiled. An actual real smile, small but there, it transformed his entire face. Tasha went inside feeling lighter than she had in weeks. Maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't be so bad. 3 weeks later, Tasha was falling for Marcus Fontaine, and it terrified her. They texted every day. Good morning messages, random thoughts, photos of things they saw. Marcus sent her pictures of buildings he liked. Architectural details most people wouldn't notice. Tasha sent him memes and pictures of her lunch. They'd had dinner together 5 more times, coffee twice. One Sunday, Marcus had picked her up and driven her to his grandfather's house in Lake Forest for the famous gumbo. Kingston Fontaine was 74, sharp as a tack, and immediately loved Tasha. You got fire in you, girl, he'd said, ladling gumbo into her bowl. That's good. My grandson needs someone with fire. They'd also met Marcus's younger brother, Devin. Devin was 23, worked as a music producer, and had immediately sized Tasha up like he didn't trust her. So you're the one marrying my brother for his money, Devin had said flatly. Devin, Kingston had snapped. But Tasha had just looked Devin in the eye and said, I'm marrying your brother because my father is sick and needs help. Marcus is getting a wife who'll treat him right. We're both getting something out of this. That make you feel better? Devin had blinked, surprised. Then he'd grinned. All right, I respect the honesty. After that, they'd gotten along fine. But now, 3 weeks in, Tasha was starting to feel something real. Something that went beyond the arrangement. She liked Marcus. Really liked him. The way he remembered small things she mentioned. The way he opened doors and pulled out chairs without making it seem like she couldn't do it herself. The way he listened, really listened, when she talked. He'd even started responding with more than just short texts. Full paragraphs about his day, questions about hers. Last week, he'd shown up at the TV station with her favorite deep dish pizza from Lou Malnati's. You said you were having a bad day, he'd typed. Pizza helps. Aaliyah had nearly fainted. Girl, if you don't marry him, I will, she'd whispered. But Tasha kept thinking about the book. She'd read it cover to cover 3 times now. The story was always the same. Natasha was cruel. She embarrassed Marcus in public. She gave his money to her awful cousin Jasmine and Jasmine's equally awful family. She caused a scandal that made Marcus pull away completely. And then at the end, Marcus died in the helicopter crash. Tasha was determined to be different. She was kind. She was respectful. She shut down her cousin's hints about helping family with money. But what if it wasn't enough? What if fate found a way to make her the villain anyway? Stop overthinking, Tasha told herself, sitting at her desk at work. You're not her, you're you. Phone buzzed. Marcus, dinner tonight. There's something I want to ask you. Tasha's heart jumped. She typed back, Tasha, sure, same place. Marcus, no, my place. I'll cook. Tasha stared at the message. Marcus was cooking for her, at his penthouse. This felt significant. Tasha. What time, Marcus? 7. I'll send a car. At exactly 6:45 p.m. a black car pulled up outside Tasha's apartment. She'd changed outfits 6 times before settling on jeans and a burgundy sweater. Casual but cute. The driver took her to Fontaine Tower, a sleek high-rise on Michigan Avenue overlooking Millennium Park. They went up to the penthouse on the 40th floor. The doors opened directly into Marcus's home. Tasha stepped out and her jaw dropped. The penthouse was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the entire Chicago skyline. The furniture was modern and expensive, but somehow still comfortable. There was art on the walls, real art, not prints. And the smell, something was cooking, and it smelled incredible. Marcus appeared from the kitchen wearing dark jeans and a black Henley, no suit. His sleeves were rolled up, showing strong forearms. Tasha's mouth went dry. He smiled when he saw her and typed on his phone, "You're here. Good. Hope you like pasta." "You made pasta?" Marcus nodded and gestured for her to follow him. The kitchen was straight out of a magazine. Marble counters, stainless steel appliances, pendant lights hanging over an island on the stove. A pot of pasta bubbled. A pan of sauce simmered. Garlic bread was warming in the oven. "You actually cook," Tasha said, amazed. Marcus typed, "My grandfather taught me. He said a man should be able to feed himself and the people he loves, the people he loves." Tasha's heart squeezed. Marcus pulled out a stool at the island for her, then went back to cooking. Tasha watched him work, confident, precise, like he'd done this 1,000 times. "Can I help?" she asked. Marcus shook his head and typed one-handed, "You relax. Long day?" "Yeah. We're working on this new series about small businesses in Chicago. It's going well, but it's a lot of coordination." Marcus nodded, listening while he drained the pasta. 5 minutes later, he set a plate in front of her. Homemade fettuccine with a cream sauce that had mushrooms and spinach. Garlic bread on the side, a glass of white wine. It looked like something from a restaurant. Tasha took a bite and almost moaned. "Oh my God, Marcus, this is amazing." He looked pleased. He made himself a plate and sat across from her. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus pulled out his phone. "I wanted to ask you something." "Okay," Tasha said, suddenly nervous. "The wedding. My grandfather wants it to happen soon. He's getting worse, but I don't want to pressure you. If you need more time, how soon?" Tasha interrupted. Marcus typed, 2 weeks, 2 weeks." Tasha set down her fork. Her hands were shaking. In 2 weeks, she'd be Tasha Fonten, married to this incredible man, living this life that still didn't feel real. "Can I ask you something?" Tasha said. "And I need you to be honest." Marcus nodded. "You even want to marry me? Like, really? Or is this just about your grandfather?" Marcus set down his phone. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he stood up, walked around the island and stood in front of her. Tasha's breath caught. Marcus reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face with both hands. His palms were warm. His touch was gentle. He looked into her eyes like he was trying to tell her everything he couldn't say out loud. Then he leaned down and pressed his forehead to hers. Tasha closed her eyes. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might explode. When she opened her eyes again, Marcus had stepped back. He picked up his phone and typed, "I want this. I want you. If you'll have me." Tasha felt tears prick her eyes. "Yeah," she whispered. "Yeah, I'll marry you." Marcus smiled, that rare, beautiful smile, and pulled her into a hug. Tasha wrapped her arms around him and felt, for the first time since finding that book, like maybe everything would be okay. Maybe she could rewrite this story after all. 2 weeks later, the wedding was small. Just family and a few close friends at Kingston's house in Lake Forest. Tasha wore a simple white dress she'd found at a boutique in Pilsen. Her father walked her down the makeshift aisle in Kingston's backyard. Bernard had tears in his eyes. "You look just like your mama, baby girl." Tasha squeezed his arm. "You feeling okay, Dad?" "Better than okay. The surgery's scheduled for next week, and I'm watching my daughter marry a good man. I'm perfect." At the end of the aisle, Marcus waited in a charcoal gray suit. When Tasha reached him, he took her hands. The officiant went through the ceremony. Tasha said her vows. Marcus had written his down, and the officiant read them. "Promise to protect you, to listen to you, to make you laugh when I can, to build a life with you that's ours, not anyone else's expectations. You saw me when I thought I was invisible. I'll spend my life making sure you feel seen too." Tasha was crying by the end. "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Marcus cupped Tasha's face the same way he had in his kitchen 2 weeks ago. Then he kissed her, soft, sweet, perfect. Everyone clapped. Devin whistled. Aaliyah was sobbing into a tissue. And just like that, Tasha Williams became Tasha Fontaine that night back at Marcus's penthouse. Their penthouse now. Tasha sat on the couch in her pajamas, exhausted but happy. Marcus sat next to her, also in pajamas. They'd agreed to take things slow. No pressure. Tasha pulled out her phone to check messages. That's when she saw it. A text from an unknown number. "You think you've changed the story. You've only just begun. The real test is coming." The author. Tasha's blood went cold. "No," she whispered. Marcus looked at her, concerned. He typed, "What's wrong?" Tasha showed him the message. Marcus frowned and typed, "Who is this?" "I don't know." Tasha lied, but she did know the book. The story. It wasn't over. She'd changed the beginning. She'd married Marcus out of love, not just obligation. But the ending, the helicopter crash, was still coming. and Tasha had no idea how to stop it. If you want to know how Tasha fights to save Marcus and rewrite her fate, make sure you don't go anywhere and trust me. You won't believe what happens next. Drop a comment and tell me. Would you marry someone to save your family? Let's talk about it. Tasha stared at the text message on her phone, her hands trembling. You think you've changed the story. You've only just begun. The real test is coming. The author, Marcus, gently took the phone from her hands. He read the message, his jaw tightening. Then he typed quickly on his own phone and showed her, block this number, it's probably a prank. Right, Tasha said, forcing a smile. Just some weirdo, I'll block them. But she didn't believe it was a prank. And from the way Marcus was watching her, careful, concerned, she wondered if he didn't quite believe it either. Marcus set both their phones on the coffee table. Then he took Tasha's hand and squeezed it gently. He pointed to himself, then to her, then made a gesture like a shield. Tasha understood. I'll protect you. I know, she whispered. They sat together in the quiet of their penthouse, the Chicago skyline glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Tasha leaned her head on Marcus's shoulder and he wrapped his arm around her. For tonight, she'd let herself feel safe. Tomorrow, she'd figure out how to fight fate. 1 month later, girl, married life looks good on you. Aaliyah Chen bounced into Tasha's office at Chicago Metro TV network holding 2 iced coffees. She set one on Tasha's desk and plopped into the chair across from her. Tasha smiled. Thanks, Leah. How's living with Mr. Tall, Dark, and Loaded? Aaliyah waggled her eyebrows. Y'all figured out the whole communication thing yet? Actually, yeah. Tasha pulled out her phone and showed Aaliyah her text thread with Marcus. It was pages and pages of messages. Good morning texts, photos of buildings Marcus liked, memes Tasha sent, entire conversations about everything from what to have for dinner to whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Marcus, it does not belong on pizza. That's a crime against food. Tasha, you're just scared to try new things. Marcus, I try new things. I married you, didn't I? Aaliyah squealed. He used an emoji. Tasha, that man is down bad for you. Tasha felt her cheeks heat up. We're still figuring things out, taking it slow. Slow is good, Aaliyah said. Means when y'all finally, you know it's gonna be explosive. Aaliyah, what? I'm just saying. Aaliyah grinned, then her expression shifted. But seriously, Tash, you seem happy, like really happy. I haven't seen you this relaxed in years. Tasha realized it was true. Despite the mysterious text message, despite her fear about the book's predictions, she was happy. Marcus was an incredible husband. He texted her throughout the day just to check in. He came home for dinner every night, or if he had to work late, he'd send food to the TV station for her. He'd started teaching her about architecture, showing her buildings around Chicago and explaining what made them special. Last week he'd surprised her with tickets to see the Lion King musical at the Cadillac Palace Theater because she'd mentioned loving it as a kid, and the way he looked at her, like she was the most fascinating person in the world. Yeah, Tasha said softly, I'm happy. Good, you deserve it. Aaliyah's phone buzzed. Shoot, I gotta run, department meeting, lunch later. Can't, I'm meeting Marcus's brother Devin for coffee. Aaliyah's eyes widened. The hot music producer brother, Tasha. Living your best life. It's not like that, he just wants to talk about something. MMHMM, sure. Aaliyah winked and left. Tasha shook her head, smiling. Then she looked at the time. She had 3 hours before meeting Devin. Time to get some work done, but first she pulled out the book from her bag. Fontaine Fortune still sat heavy in her hands. She'd been carrying it everywhere, checking it obsessively. The pages had changed since her wedding. Whole sections were different now. In the original story, Natasha had been cold and distant at the wedding. She complained to friends about being trapped. But in the new version, the text had shifted. Natasha surprised everyone by genuinely smiling during the ceremony. When Marcus read his vows, she cried. It seemed, against all odds, that she was actually falling for him, so changes were possible. But when Tasha flipped to the end, her stomach always dropped. The final chapter remained the same. The helicopter departed at 8:47 a.m. on a rainy Tuesday in October. Marcus Fontaine was flying to a business meeting in Milwaukee. Due to mechanical failure, the helicopter crashed into Lake Michigan 20 minutes after takeoff. There were no survivors. Natasha received the news at work. She collapsed in the hallway, screaming his name, but Marcus couldn't hear her. He was already gone. October was 6 months away. Tasha closed the book and shoved it back in her bag. 6 months to figure out how to save Marcus's life. No pressure. Later that afternoon, Tasha met Devin Fontaine at a coffee shop in Wicker Park called Sip and Savor. Devin was already there when she arrived, sitting at a corner table with an iced Americano and his laptop open. He wore ripped jeans, a vintage band t-shirt, and had fresh braids pulled back in a ponytail. At 23, he looked more like a college student than a successful music producer. Tasha, Devin stood and gave her a quick hug. "Thanks for meeting me." "Of course. What's up?" they ordered. Tasha got a caramel latte and sat down. Devin fidgeted with his cup. "So I need some advice, and you seem like someone who gets it." "What?" "Family stuff, expectations." Devin sighed. "My grandfather keeps pushing me to work at Fontaine Group. He thinks music production is a hobby. Marcus is on my side, but Granddad won't let it go." Tasha understood immediately. "You feel like you're disappointing him." "Exactly." Devin leaned forward. "I love my grandfather, I respect everything he's built, but I don't want to wear suits and sit in boardrooms. That's Marcus's thing. I want to make music, help artists, build something different." "You told your grandfather how serious you are about this?" "Kind of, but he doesn't really listen." Devin ran a hand over his braids. "Marcus is the responsible one, the CEO, the one who saved the company. I'm just the screw-up little brother." "Marcus think you're a screw-up." "No, Marcus thinks I'm talented. He actually invested in my production studio last year." Tasha smiled. "Then Marcus sees your worth, and eventually your grandfather will too. You just have to keep showing up and doing the work." Devin looked at her gratefully. "That's exactly what I needed to hear. Thanks, Tasha." Anytime. They talked for another hour. Devin told her about the artists he was working with. Tasha told him about her dream of making documentaries. "You should do it," Devin said. "Marcus would support you. He's actually a really generous dude when he cares about someone." "I'm starting to see that." Devin grinned. "He's different since he met you, you know. Lighter. He actually smiled at a board meeting last week. People almost fainted." Tasha laughed. "No way." "I'm serious. Marcus never shows emotion at work. But now he's checking his phone constantly, and we all know he's texting you." Devin's expression turned sincere. "Thank you for making my brother happy." Tasha's throat tightened. "He makes me happy too." "Good. Your family now. We Fontaines protect our own." That evening, Tasha came home to find Marcus in the kitchen cooking again. The penthouse smelled like garlic and herbs. Music played softly from the speakers, some jazz instrumental. Marcus looked up when she walked in and smiled. A real, full smile that made her heart skip. He set down the knife he was using and typed on his phone, "How was coffee with Devin?" "Good. He's stressed about your grandfather's expectations." Marcus nodded knowingly and typed, "Granddad means well, but he pushes too hard sometimes." Devin said you invested in his studio. "Of course. He's talented. He should follow his dreams." Marcus said this so matter-of-factly, like supporting his brother was the most obvious thing in the world. Tasha walked over and wrapped her arms around him from behind. "You're a good big brother." Marcus turned in her arms. He cupped her face gently and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. Then he pointed to the stove and raised his eyebrows. "Hungry? Starving?" They ate dinner together at the island, chicken piccata with asparagus and roasted potatoes. Marcus had even made a salad because he'd noticed Tasha trying to eat healthier. After dinner, they moved to the couch. Marcus pulled up a documentary about Frank Lloyd Wright on the TV. "Architecture again?" Tasha teased. Marcus typed. "You said you wanted to understand what I love." Tasha curled up next to him. "I do." They watched in comfortable silence, Marcus's arm around her shoulders. Every now and then he'd type a note on his phone explaining some design element or historical context. Tasha loved this. The quiet intimacy. The way Marcus shared his world with her. An hour into the documentary, Tasha's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her blood turned to ice. Another message from the author. "You're getting too comfortable, Natasha. Remember, the closer you get to him, the harder it will be when he's gone." Tick-tock, Tasha's hands started shaking. Marcus noticed immediately. He paused the documentary and took her phone. His expression darkened when he read the message. He stood up, pulling Tasha with him, and led her to his study. Marcus sat at his desk and pulled up something on his computer. He gestured for Tasha to come look. It was a security program. Marcus typed quickly, entering the phone number from the mysterious texts. After a few seconds, results appeared. Burner phone. Untraceable. Purchased with cash in downtown Chicago. Marcus's jaw clenched. He typed on his phone, "Someone is harassing you. This isn't a prank. I'm hearing security. Security." Marcus, that's extreme. He shook his head firmly and typed, "Your safety is not negotiable. Someone is threatening you. I won't take chances." Tasha saw the fear in his eyes, the protectiveness. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay." Marcus pulled her close and held her tight. Tasha closed her eyes, breathing in his cologne, cedar, and something crisp. She couldn't tell him the truth, that the messages were about him dying, that she was trying to save his life. He wouldn't believe her. He'd think she was paranoid or unwell. So she just held him back and prayed she could figure this out before October came. 2 weeks later, "Mrs. Fontaine, there's a woman here to see you. Says her name is Veronica Hampton." Tasha looked up from her desk at the TV station, confused. "I don't know anyone named Veronica," her assistant shrugged. "She says it's about your husband." Tasha's stomach dropped. "Send her in." A minute later, a tall white woman in a designer suit walked into Tasha's office. She had blonde hair and a sleek ponytail, perfectly done makeup, and an expensive handbag. She looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. "Fontaine," the woman said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "I'm Veronica Hampton. I work in investments at Fontaine Group." "Nice to meet you," Tasha said carefully. "What can I do for you?" Veronica sat down without being invited. "I wanted to introduce myself. I've known Marcus for years. We've worked closely together." Something about the way she said closely made Tasha's skin crawl. "That's nice," Tasha said. "I'm sure Marcus values good colleagues." "Oh, we're more than colleagues." Veronica smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Marcus and I have a special understanding. We're from the same world, you know, the same background. We understand the pressure of running a company like Fontaine Group." Tasha kept her expression neutral. "Sounds like you're a valuable team member." "I am." Veronica leaned forward. "Which is why I feel I should be honest with you. Woman to woman, here we go," Tasha thought. "Marcus married you because of his grandfather's wishes," Veronica continued. "But everyone at the company knows it's just an arrangement. Marcus doesn't do relationships. He's married to his work." "There a point to this conversation?" Tasha asked coolly. Veronica's smile sharpened. "I'm just trying to save you some heartache." "Don't get too attached. Marcus will never really love you. You're not his type." Unspoken words hung in the air. "You're not rich enough, not sophisticated enough, not good enough." Tasha stood up. "Thank you for stopping by, Ms. Hampton, but my marriage is none of your concern, and I think you should leave now." Veronica stood slowly. "You're making a mistake getting involved with the Fontaines. That family has secrets you can't even imagine." "Take my chances. The door is that way." Veronica left, but her perfume, heavy and expensive, lingered in the office. Tasha sat back down, her heart pounding. That woman was trouble. Tasha could feel it. But what really bothered her was the last thing Veronica said. That family has secrets you can't even imagine. What secrets? Tasha didn't tell Marcus about Veronica's visit right away. She didn't want to worry him. But that night at dinner, Marcus seemed distracted. He kept checking his phone and frowning. Finally, Tasha asked, "Everything okay?" Marcus hesitated, then typed, "Someone at work is causing problems, spreading rumors about us." "What kind of rumors? That you married me for money, that it's not real?" Tasha's heart sank. "Veronica," Marcus's head snapped up. "You know her. She came to my office today. Said some things about how I'm not your type and I should know my place." Marcus's expression turned thunderous. He stood up so fast his chair almost fell over. He typed furiously, "What else did she say? Just that you'd never really love me, that I was out of my depth with your family." Tasha tried to sound casual. "It's fine, I didn't let it get to me." Marcus came around the table and knelt in front of her chair. He took her hands in his, then he did something he'd never done before. He spoke. His voice was rusty, rough from years of disuse, but the words were clear. "You are everything." Tasha's eyes filled with tears. "Marcus." "She's wrong," he continued, each word an effort. "You're not out of your depth. You're perfect for me." Tasha cupped his face. "You're talking." "You," Marcus whispered. "I'll try for you." Tasha kissed him, soft at first, then deeper. Marcus pulled her off the chair and into his arms. They stood there in the middle of the kitchen, holding each other like they were the only two people in the world. When they finally pulled apart, Marcus typed on his phone, "I'm firing her tomorrow." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. She disrespected my wife. She's gone." Tasha had never found anyone more attractive than Marcus was in that moment. "Okay," she whispered. Marcus kissed her forehead, then typed, "Also, I want to take you somewhere this weekend, just us." "Where?" "It's a surprise. Pack a bag." That weekend Marcus drove them north out of Chicago in his black Range Rover. They took Lake Shore Drive along the water, then headed into Wisconsin. An hour and a half later, they arrived at a beautiful resort in Lake Geneva. "Lakeside Resort," Tasha read from the sign. "Is this yours?" Marcus nodded and typed, "Family property. I come here when I need quiet." The resort was stunning. Luxury cabins overlooking Geneva Lake with a main lodge that had a restaurant and spa. Marcus had reserved the nicest cabin, a two-bedroom suite with a fireplace, a private deck, and floor-to-ceiling windows facing the water. "This is incredible," Tasha breathed. Marcus smiled and typed, "Wait until you see the sunset." They spent the day exploring the resort, walking along the lake, having lunch at the restaurant. Just being together without the pressure of work or family expectations. That evening they sat on the deck watching the sun set over the water. The sky turned orange and pink and purple. Marcus had his arm around Tasha. She leaned against him, completely content. "Thank you for this," she said softly. Marcus typed with one hand, "Needed time, just us." "Me too." They sat in comfortable silence as the sky darkened and stars appeared. Then Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. "Work emergency." "I need to make a call." "5 minutes, of course." Marcus went inside. Through the window, Tasha could see him packing, phone pressed to his ear. Her own phone buzzed. Tasha's heart sank when she saw it was from the author again. "Enjoying your romantic getaway. Don't get too used to happiness, Natasha. In the original story, this is where everything starts to fall apart. Your cousin Jasmine is about to show up and ruin everything. But you already know that, don't you? You've read ahead. The question is, can you stop it?" Tasha's hands shook. Jasmine. Her awful cousin who was always begging for money and bragging about her own life. In the book, Jasmine had shown up at this resort with her equally awful family. They'd embarrassed Tasha in front of Marcus, made demands for money, caused a huge scene. It was the beginning of Natasha's downfall in the original story. But how would Jasmine even know they were here? Tasha's blood ran cold. What if the author told her? What if someone was actively trying to make the book's events come true? Before Tasha could process this thought, she heard loud voices from inside the resort lobby. "I know my cousin is here. Tasha Confronting. She's staying in one of these fancy cabins." "No." Tasha stood up and looked toward the main lodge. Through the windows, she could see her cousin Jasmine in the lobby. With her was Jasmine's boyfriend Travis and Jasmine's mother, Tasha's Aunt Lorraine. They were arguing with the resort staff. "We're family," Aunt Lorraine was saying. "You can't keep us from seeing our own blood." This was it. The scene from the book. Tasha had two choices. Let it play out like the story said, or change it. She chose change. Tasha marched down to the lobby, her heart pounding. "Jasmine," she said loudly. "What are you doing here?" Jasmine spun around. She was 28, dressed in designer knockoffs with long weave and fake nails. Her boyfriend Travis looked uncomfortable in a too-tight polo shirt. "Tasha." Jasmine rushed over, fake smile plastered on. "There you are. We came to visit." "How did you know I was here?" "Someone texted me, said you were at this gorgeous resort and I should come see it." Jasmine looked around the lobby like she was pricing everything. "This place is nice. Your husband owned this." "That's none of your business." Aunt Lorraine stepped forward. "Tasha, don't be rude. We're family. We just wanted to spend time with you." "You wanted to spend time in a free luxury resort," Tasha said flatly, "and probably ask for money." "How dare you?" Aunt Lorraine clutched her chest dramatically. "We raised you when your mother died. You did not raise me. My father raised me. You didn't even come to my mother's funeral." Jasmine's eyes narrowed. "You think you're better than us now just because you married some rich mute. Girl, please, we all know you're a gold digger." Something snapped in Tasha. For a month she'd been patient, kind, trying to be the opposite of the villain in the book, but she was done letting people disrespect her. "You know what, Jasmine? You're right. I married a rich man, a good man who treats me with respect. Something you wouldn't know about since Travis over there can't even hold down a job." Travis's face turned red. Jasmine sputtered. "How you?" "And Aunt Lorraine, you've spent your whole life being jealous of my mother. That's why you never came around. That's why you only call when you need something." "I'm done pretending we're close." Tasha Williams. "It's Tasha Confronting now," Tasha said. "And you're not welcome here, any of you. The staff is going to escort you out." Security guards had already appeared, summoned by the resort manager. "You can't kick us out," Jasmine shrieked. "Actually, I can. My husband owns this resort, and I'm telling you to leave." Jasmine looked like she wanted to attack Tasha. Travis grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "This isn't over," Jasmine hissed. "You're going to regret this." "I doubt it." Security escorted Jasmine, Travis, and Aunt Lorraine out of the lobby. Tasha stood there, breathing hard, adrenaline pumping through her veins. Then she heard slow clapping behind her. She turned to see Marcus standing by the lobby entrance. He'd watched the whole thing. He walked over and typed on his phone. "That was the hottest thing I've ever seen." Despite everything, Tasha laughed. Yeah. Remind me never to make you angry." Marcus pulled her close and kissed her right there in the lobby in front of everyone. When they pulled apart, Tasha felt lighter than she had in weeks. She'd changed the story. Again, in the book, Natasha had given Jasmine money, had let her family stay at the resort, had been humiliated and weak, but Tasha had stood up for herself, for her marriage. Maybe, just maybe, she was winning this fight against fate back in Chicago. 3 days later, Tasha was at work when Veronica Hampton showed up again. But this time, Veronica wasn't alone. She'd brought a journalist from Chicago Tribune. "Mrs. Fontaine," the journalist said, "I'm writing a story about Marcus Fontaine and his company. I've heard some interesting things about your marriage. Would you care to comment?" Tasha's blood ran cold. "What things?" "That it's a business arrangement, that you're using Marcus for his money, that you've already given thousands of dollars to your extended family." Tasha looked at Veronica, who smiled innocently. "Have no idea what you're talking about," Tasha said carefully. "So you deny taking money from your husband?" "I deny nothing because there's nothing to deny. My marriage is private and legitimate, and this conversation is over." But Tasha's hands were shaking as the journalist left. Veronica lingered. "You should have stayed in your lane," Veronica said softly. "Marcus was fine before you. He didn't need some nobody from the South Side messing up his life." "Marcus loves me," Tasha said. "Something you'll never understand. Or does he just feel obligated?" Veronica leaned in. "Ask him about the prenup, Tasha. Ask him what happens if you divorce within the first year. You get nothing because he doesn't trust you." Veronica walked away, leaving Tasha frozen. A prenup? Marcus had never mentioned a prenup. Was Veronica lying? Or was there something Marcus hadn't told her? That night, Tasha confronted Marcus. "Did we sign a prenup?" she asked. Marcus looked up from his laptop, surprised. He typed, "Yes, standard for family assets." "Why? What does it say?" "You get nothing if we divorce in the first year. After that, normal division of assets." "It was my grandfather's requirement, not mine. So you don't trust me?" Marcus stood up, alarmed. "No, that's not. If you trusted me, there wouldn't be a prenup. You think I'm with you for money." Tasha stopped. Marcus grabbed her hands. "The prenup means nothing. It's just legal protection for the company. I trust you." "Then why didn't you tell me about it?" "I didn't think it mattered. I don't care about the money. I care about you." Tasha wanted to believe him, but doubt had crept in. Veronica said. Marcus's expression darkened. "What did she say? That you were fine before me, that I'm messing up your life?" Marcus dropped his phone. He cupped Tasha's face with both hands, then he spoke, his voice stronger than before. "She's wrong. Before you, I was empty, just existing. You gave me a reason to speak, to feel. You're the best thing that ever happened to me." Tears streamed down Tasha's face. Marcus kissed her, desperate and deep. "Love you," he whispered against her lips. "I love you." "I love you too," Tasha sobbed. They held each other in the middle of their living room, the Chicago skyline twinkling outside. And for that moment, nothing else mattered, not Veronica, not the book, not fate, just them. The next morning, Tasha woke up to find Marcus already gone. He'd left a note on his pillow, "Early meeting. Back by noon. Love you." Tasha smiled and got ready for work. But when she arrived at the TV station, Aaliyah was waiting in her office with a strange expression. "Tash, we need to talk." "What's wrong?" Aaliyah handed her a tablet. "This article just posted online." Tasha's heart sank as she read the headline, "Fontaine CEO's arranged marriage, love or leverage." The article laid out everything. The arrangement between their grandfathers, Bernard's medical bills, the prenup. Jasmine's claims that Tasha had changed since marrying money. It painted Tasha as a social climber who'd manipulated her way into wealth. "Who wrote this?" Tasha whispered. "Journalist Veronica brought to you yesterday, and look at the main source." Tasha scrolled down. There, quoted extensively, was her own cousin Jasmine. "Tasha always wanted to be rich," Jasmine was quoted saying. She saw Marcus as a meal ticket. She doesn't love him, she loves his money. Tasha's phone started ringing. Unknown numbers, reporters, then Marcus called. I saw it, Tasha said as soon as she answered. Handling it, Marcus said, his voice rough but determined. Lawyers are already working. The story will be retracted. Marcus, I'm so sorry. Don't. This isn't your fault, it's Veronica's and your cousin's, and they'll both regret it. What are you going to do? Whatever it takes to protect you. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Don't talk to any reporters. Okay, Marcus hung up. Tasha sat in her office, numb. This was it. The scandal from the book. The thing that was supposed to destroy their marriage. But unlike book Natasha, Tasha hadn't caused it. Someone else was pulling the strings. And Tasha had a sinking feeling she knew who. Author. Whoever was sending those messages wasn't just predicting the future. They were making it happen. Want to know how Tasha and Marcus uncover the truth about the author? And whether they can stop the helicopter crash that's coming in just 5 months. Then don't go anywhere. Stay with me till end of this story. If this story is giving you all the feels, share it with someone who loves a good romance with mystery and suspense. Fontaine stood in the conference room of Fontaine Tower, facing 12 of his top executives and attorneys. His voice was still rough, still unfamiliar to most people who'd only known him as silent, but every word came out clear and strong. Article published this morning is defamatory, Marcus said. It contains false statements about my wife and our marriage. I want a full retraction and public apology from Chicago Tribune. I also want the journalist and every source identified. His head attorney, David Kim, nodded. We're already pursuing legal action, Mr. Fontaine. The journalist violated ethics standards by relying on unverified sources with clear bias. Marcus turned to his CFO. Pull all Fontaine Group advertising from Tribune, effective immediately. Sir, that's over $2 million in annual revenue for them. I don't care. They attacked my family. Marcus's jaw tightened. And someone find out how that journalist got our prenuptial agreement details. That document was confidential. Everyone in the room shifted uncomfortably. Marcus's eyes landed on an empty chair. Where's Veronica Hampton? She called in sick today, sir, someone said. Fire her. Security escort. She doesn't come back to this building. Mr. Fontaine, David Kim said carefully, we should be cautious about termination without proper cause. She could claim retaliation. She leaked confidential company documents to the press, Marcus interrupted. She harassed my wife at her workplace. She coordinated with outside parties to damage Fontaine Group's reputation. That's cause enough. Make it happen. Marcus walked out of the conference room, his heart pounding. He'd spoken more in the last 24 hours than he had in 20 years, all for Tasha. Because someone was trying to destroy the best thing that had ever happened to him, and Marcus Fontaine didn't let anyone hurt the people he loved. Meanwhile, at Chicago Metro TV network, Tasha sat in her office with the door locked, ignoring the constant buzzing of her phone. Reporters, strangers, even people she went to high school with suddenly wanting to reconnect. Everyone wanted the story about the girl from the South Side who married a billionaire. Aaliyah had planted herself outside Tasha's office like a guard dog, turning away anyone who tried to approach. Tasha doesn't have a comment, Aaliyah said for the 15th time. Move along. Inside, Tasha pulled out the purple book from her bag. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The pages had changed again. New text appeared describing the scandal, the article, Marcus's response. Marcus Fontaine surprised everyone by speaking publicly to defend his wife. His attorneys filed lawsuits. His company pulled millions in advertising. For the first time since childhood, Marcus Fontaine let the world hear his voice, all to protect Natasha. Tasha's eyes filled with tears. Marcus was fighting for her, using the voice he'd hidden for decades. But when she flipped to the end, the final chapter remained unchanged. The helicopter departed at 8:47 a.m. on Tuesday, October 15th. Marcus Fontaine was flying to Milwaukee for an emergency meeting about the media scandal. The helicopter crashed into Lake Michigan at 9:12 a.m. Marcus's body was recovered 3 days later. Natasha never recovered from the loss. October 15th, that was exactly 5 months away, and the book now specified what would trigger the trip, the media scandal. No, Tasha whispered. I won't let this happen. Phone buzzed with a new message from the unknown number. You're getting closer to the truth, Natasha, but will you figure it out in time? The crash happens because Marcus flies alone to fix your mess. The question is, can you stop him without revealing you know the future, or will your silence kill him? The author Tasha stared at those words, her mind racing. The author was right. She couldn't tell Marcus about the book without sounding unstable. He'd never believe his life was written in some magical book, but she also couldn't let him get on that helicopter. There had to be another way. A knock on her door made her jump. "Tash, it's me," Aaliyah's voice came through. "Marcus is here." Tasha quickly shoved the book in her bag and unlocked the door. Marcus stood in the hallway looking exhausted but determined. Dark circles under his eyes, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. He'd clearly been working all morning. "Hey," Tasha said softly. Marcus didn't speak. He just pulled her into his arms and held her tight. Tasha buried her face in his chest, breathing him in. "I fired Veronica," Marcus said quietly. "Sued the newspaper, pulled our advertising. Your cousin Jasmine will also face legal consequences for lying to the press." "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did." Marcus pulled back to look at her. "Nobody gets to hurt you. Nobody." "I love you," Tasha whispered. "Love you more." Marcus kissed her forehead. "Let's go home." That evening at Confronting Penthouse, Tasha and Marcus sat on their couch, finally alone after the chaos of the day. Marcus had ordered food from Tasha's favorite soul food restaurant on the south side. Fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread, comfort food. They ate in quiet, both too drained to talk. Then Marcus's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "It's my brother." "Answer it," Tasha said. Marcus put it on speaker. "Devin, bro, you need to see this." Devin's voice was tense. "I'm sending you a link right now. Someone posted a video." Marcus's phone pinged. He opened the link. It was a video on social media posted by an anonymous account. The video showed Veronica Hampton sitting in what looked like her apartment, talking directly to the camera. "My name is Veronica Hampton. I was recently fired from Confronting Group for harassment, but the real reason is that I know the truth about Marcus Confronting's marriage. I have proof that Tasha Williams married him solely for money. I have emails, text messages, recordings of her admitting it to friends. Marcus is being manipulated and I tried to warn him, but instead of listening, he chose to silence me. The Confronting family is hiding something big and I'm going to expose it." Video ended. Tasha felt sick. "She's lying. I never said any of those things." "I know," Marcus said firmly. "She's fabricating evidence. People will believe her." Tasha's voice rose. "They'll think." Marcus grabbed her hands. "Tasha, look at me. I know the truth. That's all that matters. Your company will survive. We've survived worse." Marcus's eyes were intense. "I survived losing my parents. I survived years of silence and trauma. I can survive some liar posting videos online." Tasha's phone buzzed. Another message from the author. "Perfect. Right on schedule." In the original story, this video leads to Marcus's board of directors demanding he step down. He refuses. 3 board members resign. Stock prices drop. Marcus has to fly to Milwaukee for emergency damage control, and that's when the helicopter crashes. "You can't change fate, Natasha. You can only delay it." Tasha's blood turned to ice. Everything was falling into place. Every piece of the tragedy. "Tasha," Marcus was watching her. "What's wrong?" She looked at him. This man she loved more than anything. This man who'd fought his own demons to speak for her. This man who was going to die in 5 months if she didn't do something. And suddenly, Tasha made a decision. She was done being scared, done being passive. If fate wanted a fight, she'd give it one. "Need to tell you something," Tasha said. "And you're going to think I'm crazy, but I need you to listen, really listen." Marcus nodded slowly. "Okay." Tasha took a deep breath, then she told him everything. "Weeks before we met," Tasha began, "I found a book in a used bookstore on South Wabash. A book called The Confronting Fortune. When I opened it, I realized it was about my life, my future. It described everything, our arranged marriage, my father's illness, even our wedding day. But in that book, I'm the villain. I treat you horribly. I steal from you. I cause scandals. And in the end," Tasha's voice broke, "in the end, you die in a helicopter crash, October 15th, 5 months from now." Marcus stared at her. Tasha pulled the book from her bag and handed it to him. "Know how this sounds?" she said quickly. "I know it's impossible, but Marcus, everything in this book has come true. The things I've changed, the pages rewrite themselves. The things I haven't changed stay the same. And someone, whoever is sending those threatening messages, has been trying to force events to match the original story. Marcus opened the book slowly. He read the first page, then the second, then flipped to the middle. His face went pale. "This describes our wedding," he said hoarsely. Word for word. "Things nobody else knew. I know. How is this possible? I don't know, but it's real, Marcus. And in 8 days there's supposed to be a board meeting where 3 directors demand you step down because of the scandal. You refuse, they resign. Your stock drops 20%. And you fly to Milwaukee on October 15th to meet with investors. That's when the crash happens." Marcus flipped to the final chapter. Tasha watched his face as he read about his own death. "Mechanical failure," Marcus read aloud. "Helicopter crashes into Lake Michigan at 9:12 a.m. No survivors." He looked up at Tasha, his eyes filled with something between fear and disbelief. "Been living with this knowledge for months?" he asked. "Knowing I'm supposed to die. I've been trying to change it. Every decision I've made has been to avoid becoming the villain in that story, to make you happy, to build something real with you. Because I thought if I changed enough, maybe the ending would change too." "Has it?" Tasha shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "The ending stays the same. No matter what I do, you still die on October 15th. Marcus set the book down carefully, then he pulled Tasha into his arms. "I believe you," he whispered. Tasha sobbed into his chest. "You do, I've felt it, like someone was watching us, waiting for us to fail. And this explains the messages, the timing of everything." Marcus pulled back to look at her. "Who do you think is behind this?" "Who's the author?" "I don't know, but they have access to our private information. They know our schedules. They knew we'd be at the resort in Lake Geneva. They've been coordinating with Veronica and Jasmine." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Then we find them and we stop this." "How?" "The same way I solve any problem: investigation, strategy, action." Marcus stood up, pulling Tasha with him. "If someone is manipulating events, they have to be close to us. Someone with inside knowledge of both my company and your life." "Who?" Marcus's phone rang again. This time it was Kingston, his grandfather. "Granddad," Marcus answered. "Boy, we need to talk." Kingston's voice was tired. "I just got a call from 3 board members. They want an emergency meeting to discuss the scandal. They're talking about a vote of no confidence." Marcus and Tasha locked eyes. "When?" Marcus asked. "Next Tuesday, 8 days from now. Exactly like the book said." "Be there," Marcus said. "Don't worry, Granddad." "I'm not worried about the company, son. I'm worried about you. That wife of yours, is she worth all this trouble?" Marcus looked at Tasha. "More than worth it. She's everything." There was a pause, then Kingston's voice softened. "Then you fight for her, you hear me, you fight." "I will." After hanging up, Marcus pulled out his laptop. "What are you doing?" Tasha asked. "Research. If someone's been tracking us, there'll be a digital trail. Emails, location data, something." Marcus's fingers flew over the keyboard. "And I'm going to find it." Days later, Marcus's head of security, a former FBI agent named Robert Chen, sat across from Marcus and Tasha in the penthouse. "I traced the burner phone that's been texting Mrs. Fontaine," Robert said. "It was purchased at a convenience store in Pilsen. I pulled security footage from that day." He showed them a grainy video on his tablet. A figure in a hoodie and sunglasses bought the phone with cash. "Can't see their face," Robert continued. "But here's what's interesting. The same credit card that rented the car this person drove has also been used at several locations relevant to your case. The Tribune Building, a cafe near Mrs. Fontaine's office, and most damning, Veronica Hampton's apartment building." Tasha leaned forward. "So Veronica is involved." "Definitely, but she's not working alone." Robert pulled up bank records. "Ms. Hampton received 3 wire transfers in the past 2 months, total of $50,000 from an offshore account." "You trace it?" Marcus asked. "Working on it, but whoever set this up knew what they were doing. Multiple shell companies, international routing, it'll take time." Marcus's jaw clenched in frustration. Tasha studied the footage again, something about the person's build, their walk. "Wait," she said. "Go back, play that part again." Rewound the video. Tasha watched the hooded figure walk into the store. There was a slight limp on the left side. "Know that walk?" Tasha whispered. Marcus asked. Tasha's stomach dropped as realization hit. "My Aunt Lorraine. She hurt her hip 2 years ago. She walks exactly like that." Marcus and Robert exchanged glances. Your aunt is the author, Marcus said. She has to be. She knows everything about my life. She's always been jealous of my dad, of me, and when I married you, Tasha's hands shook. She saw an opportunity to get money and ruin me at the same time. How does she know about the book? Marcus asked. How does she know what's supposed to happen? Tasha had no answer. Robert made some calls, ran more searches. 20 minutes later, he had results. Lorraine Williams, Robert read from his laptop. Age 53. Works part-time at a metaphysical bookstore in Hyde Park called Mystic Pages. Specializes in rare books, fortune-telling, and he looked up. Predictive literature. Predictive literature, Tasha repeated. Books that supposedly tell the future. It's a niche market. Collectors pay thousands for them. Marcus stood up abruptly. We're going to that bookstore, now. Bookstore was tucked between a vintage clothing shop and a vegan cafe on East 53rd Street. Tasha, Marcus, and Robert entered to find the place dark and cramped, smelling of incense and old paper. Crystals hung in the windows. Tarot cards were displayed on a counter. And books, thousands of them, lined every wall. A young woman with purple hair sat behind the register. Welcome to Mystic Pages, she said in a bored voice. Can I help you find something? We're looking for Lorraine Williams, Marcus said. The girl's eyes widened slightly. She's not here today. When will she be back? Tasha asked. I don't know. She called in sick. Robert pulled out his badge. He still had credentials from his FBI days. This is official business. We need information about books Ms. Williams may have sold recently. Specifically, predictive literature. Girl looked nervous. I don't know anything about that. Really? Robert raised an eyebrow. Because selling predictive texts without proper documentation is fraud. The shop could be shut down unless you cooperate. Girl swallowed hard. Okay, look, Lorraine deals in special books, rare ones. She has a private collection in the back room, but I'm not supposed to let anyone in there. An exception, Marcus said, his voice cold. 5 minutes later, they stood in a small back room filled with locked glass cases. Inside were books of every size and color. Some looked ancient, bound in leather. Others were new but strange, with covers that seemed to shimmer, and there in the center case Tasha saw it, a whole shelf of purple books. Fontaine Fortune wasn't the only one. There were dozens of similar books. The Morrison Legacy, the King Dynasty, the Thornton Empire, with the same shimmering gold lettering. What are these? Tasha whispered. Robert picked up one of the books carefully. He opened it to the first page. Catherine Morrison never imagined she'd inherit billions. But when her estranged grandfather died, everything changed. These are all about real people, Robert said slowly. Real families. Marcus grabbed another book. This one was titled The Chen Fate. He opened it and read aloud. Robert Chen left the FBI to start a private security firm. On March 3rd, he took a case that would change everything. A client named Marcus Fontaine needed protection for his wife. Robert's face went white. That's my life. I started working for you last month on March 3rd. They all stared at each other. Someone is writing these, Tasha said. Someone is writing real people's lives into books and then making those events happen. Marcus pulled out his phone and called Kingston. Granddad, I need to ask you something. Did you ever meet someone who told fortunes? Someone who predicted things about our family? There was a long pause. Why are you asking me that, boy? Kingston said carefully. Please. It's important. Another pause. Then, there was a woman years ago before your parents died. She came to a charity event, told fortunes for donations. She read my palm and told me things, specific things about the future, about you. What did she tell you? She said you'd lose your voice but find it again for love. She said you'd marry a woman who'd save your life. Kingston's voice shook. I thought she was just a charlatan, but Marcus, she knew about the arrangement. The marriage pact I'd made with Bernard Williams. She knew his daughter's name before I even told her. Tasha grabbed Marcus's phone. Granddad, what did this woman look like? I don't remember clearly. It was almost 30 years ago, but she had a sister. I remember because they worked together, two sisters who read futures. Tasha's blood ran cold. Her mother had a sister, Aunt Lorraine. Granddad was one of the sisters named Lorraine Williams. I'm not sure. Why? Tasha hung up and looked at Marcus. My aunt can see the future, she said, or write it, or both, and she's been using that power to destroy us. That night, Marcus hired 2 more security teams, one to watch the penthouse, one to tail Aunt Lorraine, but Lorraine had disappeared. Her apartment was empty, her phone was off. Even Jasmine claimed she hadn't heard from her mother in days. She knows we're onto her, Robert said. She's gone underground. Marcus paced the penthouse living room. The board meeting is in 5 days. If it happens the way the book says, everything falls apart. Stock crashes, I fly to Milwaukee and... He didn't finish the sentence. Tasha sat on the couch, the purple book in her lap. She'd been staring at the final chapter for an hour, then something occurred to her. Marcus, she said slowly, what if we don't fight the board? What? In the book, you refuse to step down. Your pride won't let you back down. 3 board members resign, the stock crashes, and you have to fly to Milwaukee to save everything. Tasha stood up. But what if you do step down, temporarily? What if you let someone else handle it? Marcus stared at her. You want me to give up my company? I want you to stay alive. Tasha grabbed his hands. The crash happens because you fly alone to Milwaukee. You're trying to prove yourself to show you're not weak. But Marcus, you don't have to prove anything, not to me, not to anyone. If I step down, even temporarily, the media will crucify me. Them will survive media attention. We won't survive you dying. Marcus pulled Tasha close. You're asking me to look weak. I'm asking you to be smart. There's a difference. For a long moment, Marcus said nothing, then, okay, you're right, my pride isn't worth my life. Marcus kissed her forehead. I'll step down temporarily. Let my grandfather take over as interim CEO while the scandal dies down. Tasha felt hope spark in her chest. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was how they changed the ending. 5 days later at the board meeting, Marcus walked into Fontaine Tower's main conference room to face his board of directors. Tasha sat in the observer section, her heart pounding. The 3 board members who were supposed to demand Marcus's resignation sat at the far end of the table. They looked smug. Marcus took his seat at the head of the table. Let's begin, he said. For the next hour, the board members attacked. They brought up the scandal, the media coverage, the stock prices. Your personal life has become a liability, one of them said. Fontaine Group can't afford this distraction. We're calling for a vote of no confidence, another added. Marcus listened calmly, then he stood up. Right, he said. The room went silent. My personal situation has become a distraction, so I'm stepping down, temporarily. My grandfather will serve as interim CEO while I resolve these personal matters. Once the media attention dies down and my wife's name is cleared, which it will be, I'll return. 3 board members looked shocked. This wasn't in their script. Stepping down, one of them said, just like that, because unlike what you might think, I actually care more about this company's stability than my own ego. Marcus looked each of them in the eye. I'll be back, and when I am, we'll remember who stood by me and who didn't. He walked out of the conference room, head held high. Tasha followed him into the hallway. You did it, she breathed. We'll see if it worked. That night, Tasha pulled out the book with shaking hands. She flipped to the final chapter. The text was changing. Words were rearranging themselves right before her eyes. Marcus Fontaine surprised everyone by stepping down voluntarily. The board members who'd planned to force him out were left speechless. Kingston Fontaine took over as interim CEO. The media praised Marcus for putting the company first. Stock prices stabilized. There was no emergency trip to Milwaukee. No reason to fly. Tasha kept reading, her heart in her throat. October 15th came and went. Marcus didn't board a helicopter that day. He stayed home with Natasha, working remotely, avoiding unnecessary risks. The crash that was supposed to kill him never happened. Tasha's hands shook so hard she almost dropped the book. Marcus, she shouted. Marcus, he ran in from the kitchen. What's wrong? Tasha showed him the book, tears streaming down her face. It changed. The ending changed. You don't die, you live, we live. Marcus read the new text, his eyes widening, then he grabbed Tasha and kissed her so hard they both stumbled backward. We did it, he whispered against her lips. We beat fate. Held each other, crying and laughing at the same time. For the first time in months, Tasha felt like she could breathe, but the story wasn't over yet. 2 weeks later, Robert Chen called Marcus at 6 a.m. We found her, Robert said. Lorraine Williams. She's been hiding at a cabin in Wisconsin, Starved Rock State Park area. Local police have her in custody. What charges? Marcus asked. Fraud, extortion, harassment. The offshore accounts trace back to her. She paid Veronica Hampton $50,000 to sabotage you. She coordinated with her daughter Jasmine to leak information to the press. She's been orchestrating everything. What about the books, the fortune-telling? That's harder to prove. But the fraud charges alone will put her away for years. 3 days later, Tasha sat in a police station interview room facing her aunt for the first time since the resort incident. Lorraine looked older, tired, defeated. "Why?" Tasha asked. "Why did you do this to me?" Lorraine laughed bitterly. "You really don't know, do you? Your mother took everything from me. We both had the gift, the ability to see possible futures, to write them into being. But your mother refused to use it. She said it was wrong to manipulate fate. She married your father had you lived a normal life. While you what? While I suffered. No husband, no money, no respect. I used my gift to help people, to show them their futures, to guide them. And what did I get? Nothing. Your mother got everything." "My mother died when I was 19, Tasha said coldly. "What did she get exactly?" "She got love. She got you. She got a life without the burden of this gift." Lorraine leaned forward. "So when I saw your future, saw you marrying into the Fontaine fortune, I decided to write a different story. One where you suffered like I did, where you lost everything. You tried to kill Marcus. The helicopter crash was always a possibility. I just encouraged it, made sure events lined up perfectly. But you changed too much too fast. You weren't supposed to actually fall in love with him." Tasha stood up. "You're sick, and you're going to prison for a very long time. Maybe. But I changed your future, Natasha. I made you stronger. I made you fight. Without me, you'd have been a passive little wife, never knowing your own power," Tasha said. "I found my power despite you, not because of you." She walked out and never looked back. 6 months later, Tasha woke up to sunlight streaming through the penthouse windows. For a moment, she just lay there, listening to Marcus breathe beside her. October 15th. The day he was supposed to die. Instead, he was here, alive, warm, safe. Marcus stirred and opened his eyes. When he saw her watching him, he smiled. "Morning," he said. His voice was getting stronger every day. "Morning," Tasha whispered. "You okay?" "Yeah, just grateful." Marcus pulled her close. "Me too." They spent the day together, working from home, having lunch on the deck, talking about everything and nothing. At 9:12 a.m., the exact time the helicopter was supposed to have crashed, Marcus held Tasha's hand and they stood together, looking out over the Chicago skyline. "We're alive," Tasha said. "We're alive," Marcus agreed. That evening they had dinner with Bernard and Kingston at the Fontaine estate in Lake Forest. Kingston had officially retired, handing the company back to Marcus. The scandal had blown over. Veronica had been prosecuted. Jasmine had been cut off completely. And Aunt Lorraine was serving a 10-year sentence for fraud and extortion. Over dessert, Kingston raised his glass. "To Marcus and Tasha," he said. "Two people who proved that love is stronger than fate." Everyone drank later as Marcus and Tasha drove home. Tasha pulled out her phone. One last message from the author had come through that morning. "You won, Natasha. You rewrote the ending, but remember, every story continues. Your choices create new futures. Write them wisely. LW." Tasha showed Marcus the message. "Do you think she's right?" Tasha asked. "That we keep writing our own futures every day?" "I think," Marcus said carefully, "that we have more control than we know. You proved that. You saw a future you didn't like and you changed it. That's powerful." "Changed it," Tasha corrected. "Together," Marcus smiled. "Together." When they got home, Tasha pulled out the purple book one last time. She opened to the final page. New text had appeared. Natasha and Marcus Fontaine lived a long, happy life together. They had 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. Marcus continued to speak, growing stronger every year. Natasha eventually created her own documentary production company, telling stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. They faced challenges, as all couples do, but they faced them together. And in the end, when they were old and gray, they sat on their deck overlooking Chicago and agreed they'd lived a story worth telling. Tasha smiled through her tears, then she closed the book, and as she watched, the purple cover began to fade. The gold lettering disappeared. The pages turned blank. The book had served its purpose. Now their story was truly their own. 2 years later, Tasha stood in front of a crowd at the Chicago Cultural Center, about to premiere her first documentary. It was called Voices Found and told the stories of 5 people who'd overcome trauma to reclaim their lives. One of those people was Marcus. He'd agreed to be interviewed about his selective mutism, his recovery, and how love had given him the courage to speak again. In the audience sat everyone who mattered: Bernard, Kingston, Devin, Aaliyah, and even Robert Chen. The lights dimmed. The documentary began. Tasha watched Marcus's face on the screen as he spoke about his journey. I spent 20 years silent, documentary Marcus said. I thought silence was safety, but silence is just another kind of prison. Real safety, real freedom comes from being vulnerable with someone you trust. Camera showed Marcus and Tasha together walking through Chicago laughing. My wife saved my life, Marcus continued. Not by fixing me, but by seeing me, really seeing me, and loving what she saw. Tasha felt tears on her cheeks. When the documentary ended, the audience erupted in applause. People stood up. Someone whistled. Tasha took the stage for Q&A, her heart pounding with pride. Afterward, Marcus found her in the lobby. You did it, he said, pulling her into his arms. That was incredible. Did it, Tasha corrected. I couldn't have made it without you. Marcus kissed her softly, then he pulled back and said, I have something to tell you. What? I got a call today from a writer at the Chicago Tribune. They want to do a story about us, about how we overcame scandal, about my recovery, about your documentary. Tasha tensed. What did you say? I said yes, because I'm done hiding, done being ashamed. Our story deserves to be told. The real story, not the one someone else wrote for us. Tasha thought about the book, about fate, about all the ways they'd fought to control their own narrative. Okay, she said. Let's tell it our way. That night back at home, Tasha sat down at her laptop. She opened a blank document and typed, The Confronting Story, How We Rewrote Our Fate. By Tasha Confronting, she smiled and began to write. The lesson in this story, your life isn't a book written by someone else. Yes, circumstances happen. Yes, people try to control your narrative. Yes, fate throws challenges your way. But you always have a choice in how you respond. Tasha could have accepted the role of villain. She could have let fear paralyze her. She could have stayed silent about the danger she knew was coming. Instead, she chose love over fear. She chose honesty over hiding. She chose to fight fate rather than surrender to it. And Marcus, he could have stayed silent forever. He could have let pride control his decisions. He could have refused to be vulnerable, but he chose to speak, to trust, to be seen. Together, they prove that the best stories aren't the ones handed to you. They're the ones you write yourself, one brave choice at a time. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to play the part others expect. Be the author of your own life. Write a story worth telling. If this journey moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about people who refuse to accept the hand they were dealt. Drop a comment and tell me, what part of your own story are you rewriting? What fate are you refusing to accept? Share this with someone who needs to hear that they have the power to change their future. Until next time, remember, you're not a character in someone else's book. You're the author of your own story. Keep writing, keep fighting, keep loving. Peace.